Every morning at exactly 7:15, the little bell above the door of the Dawn Cafe gave its familiar tinkle. It mixed with the hiss of the espresso machine and the quiet chatter of early commuters grabbing a quick cuppa before work. Outside, the high street was only just stirring. Shop shutters rattling up. Delivery vans idling. Inside, Emily Thompson had already been on her feet for a good hour. She was 23. Though some days she felt closer to 40. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her uniform, washed far too many times, had gone a bit grey at the edges. She darted between Formica tables, balancing full English breakfasts, topping up builders' tea mugs, giving tired smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. Tips were hit and miss. Bills never were. At 7:15 on the dot, the door opened, and the old gentleman came in. He wore the same charcoal overcoat every day. Well brushed, but ancient. His shoes shone with that careful Sunday polish. His back was straight, dignified, even if his steps were slow and deliberate. He paused just inside the doorway, as though letting the warmth seep into his old bones. Emily had noticed him that very first morning, because he stood there a bit unsure, looking round like he didn't want to be a bother to anyone. "Morning," she said gently. "Table for one?" He gave a small nod. "If it's no bother." "None at all, love." She showed him to the little table by the window. Not the prime spot by a long chalk, but it caught the morning sun, and she reckoned he'd appreciate that. He sat down carefully, and folded his hands on the table. When she brought the laminated menu, he hardly glanced at it. "Just a small black coffee, please. Anything to eat with it? Bacon sarnie? Toast?" He paused. "No, thank you. Coffee's plenty." When she set the thick white mug down, he wrapped his hands round it, drawing in the warmth like it was more than just a drink. When he'd finished, he reached into his coat pocket and brought out a small leather coin purse. He counted out the coins slowly, fingers trembling just a touch. A couple of blokes at the next table swapped looks. One tutted under his breath. Emily acted like she hadn't seen. When he came up a few pence short, she quietly waved it off. "It's fine," she said softly. "Don't you worry." He looked up, surprised. "I must pay what I owe." "You have done," she replied, with a small smile. That was the first morning. The second morning he was back at 7:15. And the third. By the end of the week, he felt part of the place. Like the radio playing Capital FM in the background. Or the smell of frying bacon. Some regulars barely gave him a glance. A few muttered he was taking up a seat. For the price of the cheapest item on the board. Emily paid them no mind. On the fourth morning, she set a small shortbread biscuit on a napkin beside his mug. "I didn't order that," he said. "I know," she answered. "It's fresh today. Thought you might fancy one." His eyes softened. "I can't afford extras. It's on the house." He studied her face for a moment, like he was trying to work out something deeper. "You're very kind." She shrugged lightly. "It's only a biscuit." "It's never only a biscuit," he said quietly. After that, it became her little habit. A biscuit on Mondays. A bit of buttered toast on Fridays when the kitchen had leftovers. She never made a fuss. Just placed it down and moved on to the next table. His name, she found out, was Mr. Edward Thompson. He didn't say much about himself. When she asked where he lived, he'd reply vaguely, "Not far." When she asked about family, he'd pause a long moment. "Not anymore." But he listened. On quieter mornings, when the rush had died down, Emily would linger by his table for a minute or two. She'd tell him about her mum's hospital appointments up at the Royal Free, the pile of brown envelopes on the mat every morning, how she'd once dreamed of doing English literature at uni. "I used to write little stories," she admitted one day, a bit embarrassed. "Silly things." "Nothing silly about stories," he said gently. "Stories are how we make sense of ourselves." She smiled at that, properly smiled. One afternoon, her manager, Darren, called her into the tiny office out back. "You're giving food away again," he said. "Not looking up from the takings book. Only little bits. We bin half of it anyway. That's not the point. Give to one and the rest'll expect it." "He doesn't expect it," she said quietly. "He never asks." Darren finally looked at her. "You're too soft, Emily. This world doesn't reward soft." She didn't argue. She couldn't afford to lose the hours. That night, she sat at the little formica table in her flat, sorting through bills by the light of a single bulb. Her mum coughed weakly from the bedroom. The consultant had said the treatment would take time. And time meant money, even with the NHS waiting lists stretching for months. Emily closed her eyes for a second. She thought of Mr. Thompson's steady presence each morning. The way he really listened. Funny how someone who said so little could make her feel less on her own. A week later, rain hammered down before first light. The high street gleamed black and slick under the street lamps. The cafe was nearly empty at 7:15. The door opened, and Mr. Thompson stepped in, soaked to the skin. "Blimey," Emily said, rushing over. "You're drenched." Underestimated the weather, it seems. She guided him to a chair near the radiator, and fetched a clean tea towel from the back. She dabbed gently at his coat sleeves. "You'll catch your death out there." "I've survived worse," he said, though his voice sounded weary. Instead of just coffee, she brought him a proper bowl of hot vegetable soup. "I can't," he started. "Please," she said firmly. "No arguments today." He looked at the steam curling up, then at her face. "Why do you care so much?" She thought for a second. "Because everyone deserves someone who cares." He held her eyes for a long moment. Then he nodded once, and started to eat slowly. The next morning, he didn't come. Emily told herself it was the storm. The morning after, she kept glancing at the door, waiting for the tinkle. It never came. By the third day, worry sat heavy in her chest. On the fifth morning, as she poured a latte for a regular, 2 sleek black cars pulled up outside on the yellow line. They looked completely out of place on the little high street. 4 men in dark suits got out first. Sharp, coordinated movements. Then a woman in a smart navy suit stepped out, holding a leather folder. The cafe went quiet as they walked in. "Excuse me," the woman said, scanning the room. "We're looking for Emily Thompson." Emily froze behind the counter. "That's me. May we speak privately?" Darren bustled over, suddenly all smiles. "Everything all right here?" The woman stayed calm. "This is for Ms. Thompson." They moved to the side, near the window table where Mr. Thompson used to sit. "I'm sorry to tell you," the woman began gently, "that Mr. Edward Thompson passed away 3 days ago." Emily's breath caught. "Passed away?" "Yes. Heart failure at his home." The room seemed to tilt a little. "He lived alone. He valued his privacy." Emily swallowed hard. "I'm sorry. He was kind." The woman studied her carefully. "He spoke of you." "Of me?" "Yes. In his will." Emily stared, not understanding. Mr. Thompson was the founder of Thompson and Cole Enterprises. Emily blinked. The name rang a bell. Big company. Tech property. Lots of charity work in the papers. "That firm's worth billions," she whispered. "Indeed," the woman said. "And Mr. Thompson kept a very substantial personal estate." Emily's hands started shaking. "I don't understand." "In his final will, he left 40% of his private holdings to you." The words hung there, impossible. There must be a mistake. No mistake. He was quite clear. Darren's jaw dropped open. Customers stared openly now. "He wrote," the woman continued, opening the folder, "that you showed consistent kindness, with no thought of reward. He believed true character shows when there's nothing to gain." Tears pricked Emily's eyes. "I only gave him coffee, soup, a seat." "You gave him dignity," the woman said softly. "The papers were real. Signatures checked. The numbers were staggering. Properties, shares, accounts. More money than she'd ever dreamed of seeing in one place. In the days that followed, it all happened fast. Solicitors, banks, non-disclosure agreements. The story leaked anyway. Tabloids called her the cafe girl who inherited a fortune. Strangers speculated online. Some said she'd played the old man. She almost wished none of it had happened. But then she'd remember his quiet smile. The way he'd said, "It's never only a biscuit." She cleared her mum's medical top-ups first. Every last one. Got her into a private ward with proper care. For the first time in years. Fear left her mum's eyes. "You don't have to work yourself into the ground anymore, love," her mum whispered. Emily smiled. "I know." She still popped into the Dawn Cafe for a while. Not to work, just to sit and watch. The morning rush. Tired faces. People nobody noticed in the corners. One afternoon, she asked Darren into the office. "I'd like to make you an offer," she said. He looked nervous. An offer? To buy the cafe. Within a month. The Dawn Cafe had a new owner. Emily didn't rip everything up. Kept the same menu, the same cozy tables. The window seat that caught the morning light. But she put up a small sign by the till. "If you're short today, have a quiet word with us." She set up a little fund from the inheritance. No one turned away for a few missing quid. She also started a small trust in Mr. Thompson's name, helping older folk living alone. Meals delivered. Friendly visitors. Grants for prescriptions, winter fuel, heating bills. When a local reporter asked why that cause, she said simply, "Because loneliness costs more than money can fix." Months later, one quiet morning, Emily sat at the window table. The same one Mr. Thompson used to sit at. Hands wrapped round his coffee. Sunlight poured in across the table. A young lass working the shift came over. "There's an older gentleman at table 3, she said quietly. "He's a bit short." Emily glanced over. The man sat hunched, staring at his empty plate like he was bracing himself for embarrassment. She smiled softly. "Pop a shortbread on for him." The girl nodded and walked away. Emily watched as the biscuit was set down gently beside his cup. The old man looked up, surprised. In that small moment, she saw something carry on. Bigger than her. Bigger than money. Mr. Thompson's real gift hadn't been the fortune. It had been the lesson. Kindness, given freely, weighs far more than its price. Her life had changed forever, yes. But not because of the money. It changed the morning she decided. A man counting coppers still deserved to be seen.